Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all here again. This is my third barefaced Great British Breakfast chat, and I'm beginning to sort out my format now and get myself into a place where I can feel comfortable doing this regularly. I'm not sure if I'll be doing it 5 days a week often, or if it'll just narrow down to maybe 2 or 3. I think John Wedge's jingle is great. He does view with a brew over the, on the roof of London. So he does a panoramic view and a chat with a brew. So it just came to me. Barefaced is the way to go forward. Unmade up, truthful, genuine. My best thoughts are first thing in the morning. Less contrived, and you'll really, what you see is what you get to a much larger degree. Right, let's begin with some of the things I wanted to broach that are more relevant to now, which is the Nick documentary, which I haven't actually watched. But I do get the drift of what's going on, because Nick has been set up, in my opinion. He's been used as a pawn, basically to discredit everything. When you read the articles, it's really not just he's using him as a broom to sweep it all. Because there are plenty of other people with evidence on Heath and Britain, people I know personally, and my own experience of a VIP abuser. Well, he was accused. He lived in my village. I lived in a very remote, small village. He was a friend of my abuser, and when they talked of important people being involved, I'd always assumed it was him, and I'd made up a little song about him as a kid as well. He was mentioned a lot, and when he dies, I'll be able to come forward and tell you more about it. But my police recorded interview was stopped when I mentioned him. They said it would carry on at a later date, but they stopped it. They stalled everything. So believe me, they shut down VIP all the time. They shut it down because look at Nick, ragamuffin. Let's call him Hick. It's what the abusers look for. They want to use somebody who's more like a ragamuffin, who's more easy to discredit, and then the media and society will do the rest for them, which they are doing. The word I've always objected to, and I followed the defamation of survivors, is the word lurid. You cannot find an article about VIP abuse which doesn't use the word lurid. It's very similar to Prince Andrew and how superior he was about going to Pizza Hut. Oh gosh, I wouldn't go to Pizza Hut. It's far too, not lurid, but maybe a bit common. So they use it as a deflection tactic, lurid. So they use the word lurid, and people just think, "Ew, that's a horrible word, putrid." It's a bit like the term anti-Semitism in a way, and it's a bit like other terms that you can use, that have just sound nasty. So it's the word lurid, never without the word lurid. And you often hear Machiavellian as well. So these are the ways of regularly defaming us. As I say, they'll try and debase you into being the ragamuffin, and 99% of the time, the authorities will side with the more powerful person, unless they've been steamrolled and given the go-ahead not to by somebody higher up. So there's no real surprise what's going on with Nick. So I didn't bother watching it, because I know, as I said, they're trying to make it into a broad sweeping thing. And it's the same way that they cover mental health. They'll make the accusations of what somebody has, the drama of the person who's the victim, rather than look behind the scenes to what this is really about, which is about child abuse or mental illness or something. So they, when they talk about schizophrenic killing somebody, it'll always be dramatic. He was dancing around on the roof, dangerously hovering around the crowds, and unbalanced, ferocious, scary, and all these words. And these were the same things that they did with Nick. Have you ever heard of anything quite so abhorrently grotesque? The things that he said, so it's like, wash your mouth out. Don't say such abhorrent things, when we know these abhorrent things do happen. But it's using that deflection tactic again, not the word lurid in this occasion, but the description of what the person is doing, saying, and that is the thing to focus on as horrid and yuck. I was hearing words the other day, smutty and dirty and vile, and it's almost like, where's that soap, bar of soap, wash your mouth out, as if the person speaking it was the one. And of course, if he's a false accuser, absolutely right, he deserves condemnation. But I think I know he's being used, and the fact that they are sensationalizing his story to that degree, it does nobody any favors who's got a real story. And we know there are many, and we know there are many in power hiding behind this mechanism. So I go on now to my experience of Claire Fox and team. I stood outside a pub, Wetherspoons, as the Brexit thing was going on, a few meters away from her for about an hour. After the Battle of Ideas event, which used to go ahead every year at the Barbican, and I got to know lots of people there, brought in their curiosity because Barbara Hewson, who wanted to lower the age of consent and was very prolific in her attacks on people like Sarah Payne, calling her brain damaged, calling my friends ugly, saying that they weren't vulnerable as a truckload of gravel, and being extremely abusive, trying to undermine them the same way they did en masse Nick, because they all had connections to one another. The guy who was main accuser of Nick, I forget his name now. I can't remember his name. So yeah, he was connected to Barbara Hewson personally. So all these people and events are very closely knitted together, and it seems like it's just a protectorate, an elite protectorate at heart. So when people can see now that the BBC, ban the BBC, etc., hold on for a second. Would a patriotic organisation that tries to ban Land of Hope and Glory, etc., at the proms, would they, do you think, take the same unpatriotic tactic towards child abuse? So when you hear the usual slant about child abuse, remember it's coming from the mouth of Jimmy Savile, the Jimmy Savile gang, if you like. And I wouldn't really want my Fix-It badge. So they still give out the Fix-It badges. So look, just don't fall for the rubbish. Nick may have been wrong, but look, don't let them try and use that as propaganda. It's very wicked what they are doing, and it's very unpatriotic to fall into that pedo protectorate conservative mindset, because these people love it and have always hidden behind it. And no, we're not ragamuffins or hicks or nicks. We're people with experience, as I said, top politician. When he dies, you'll be hearing about it from me and a friend of mine who I worked with at the People's Tribunal. So we do have evidence, but it's been turned away consistently, and we've been weakened by their accusations against us, because we must bear the stigma of which is never really of any value publicly or into the newspapers, but this very real stigma that we are given by the authorities, because that's where the stigma generates. Amongst ordinary people, it's usually okay. We're given the stigma of a false accuser and a fantasist. What a horrible word. My abuser used to say that. He used to try and tell people that it was a fantasy that we'd met before. When he lived as a person 5 minutes away from my home, knew 10 or 12 of my school friends, people of my age, and my mum, dad, and my family knew lots of his friends. My mum worked with a friend of his. We went to all the same horse shows. The police, everybody believed them. I was imagining it for some reason, as you do. As you can see, that's been happening en masse, that when people go to the police for help, they're the ones victimised. Now, we can see this, as I said, the man peeing outside on a statue, near a statue, was the one who was at fault, wasn't he, when all the statues are being defaced? And that takes a lot more work to remove the paint and restore, doesn't it? But no, pee was what mattered. Same as us, they're peeing on us because we're the easier victim. The state has decided not to bother with the big boys, to join in with the thugs, and to condemn the innocent, because it's easier to sort of micromanage in a therapeutic communist-like society the victims and just oppress everybody, because we're all equal, remember? We're all smoothed down. There is no real good and bad, male or female. There's no reason to strive, reason to be, reason to look upwards. So yeah, this belief in something higher that we are clinging on to, many of us, would be in direct opposition to the kind of thing that the government are now carrying out. This is a payback, Babylon the Great, 1806. Everything that we are seeing that is attacking previous cultural norms, the empire, the hatred of all these things that we're seeing growing and growing. They'll change times and customs, laws and customs. This is what we're seeing. They're being made mad, drunk on luxury. The adultery with many nations, that are paying back for the privilege of Babylon. Revelations 18:6, Babylon the Great, I sit as queen, I shall never know mourning, mother of all prostitutes and perverts. Now, what could be more profound, here I sit as queen, mother of all prostitutes and perverts. Well, there's people, you know, they're going for the lower level things like the statues, and hiding behind, you know, white privilege, attacking all and sundry to try and reestablish, you know, equality, smoothing it over. The people at the very top are okay with that because they can hide behind all of this and let us beat it out between ourselves. And it's orchestrated. You know, what they would like is to, from the ruins and the wreckage, perhaps create something new and use it all to control us. So very strange, dangerous times. So I've gone over a bit how they sensationalise, how they try and use this as the ragamuffin and the hick or the nick, how they'll do that within mental health to sort of, when they talk about stigma, it's very often stigma that's used and passed around, information sharing within your own GP, within anything that you seek to do ever on after, be it legal or anything, coming up with stigma. So don't believe all this rubbish from, you know, the royals about, oh, let's be more open, and because actually the therapeutic culture weakens people, it weakens the stoicism, because when you release your kind of story and trust somebody as a friend, you kind of have a bond that's made. Freud knew all about this, and he would use it to keep raking in the dependency. So it's like a network of dependency, really. So yeah, no, we got to think for ourselves here. Heath, Britain, there are other people, not, you know, that Nick accused, that have got, other people have got evidence on. We're really being stitched up here. I don't think there's very much more I can say. My own experience, the battle of ideas, people, fascinating. Watch out for the crew surrounding Frank Furedi, Claire Fox. Manira, her husband, was a sex party organizer, and Claire Fox was somebody who talked about child abuse being simulated on the net, and it should be fine because they're all liberals, free for all, except when it comes for any of their lot being caught in a situation and a gun for you, as she did me. You know, threatening, talking about my mental. I'll have a little chat with you about her mental health. She used to say, she said about me, I've got screenshots when I was making, you know, talking about what had happened. She was defaming me to that degree, and I've got the screenshots. She was also saying, when I talked about Helen Rees, who was another close member of her team, and she was, look it up, Helen Rees, she's now died of cancer, but she was one of the team pushing Theresa May to allow paedophiles to adopt. There is a massive agenda amongst these people who Boris is promoting. Kenneth Clark, again, who was accused of abuse, Big Bilderberger, he was promoted. And it's no wonder these kind of people rise to the top, because I said this is what they represent, and this is why they defend against accusation the way they do, because it's all they're about, image. It's all that's holding them together. They have no character other than to protect the group, the hierarchy that they're in. And make it seem as if it's normal conservatism, but conservatism that doesn't conserve anything decent other than money and reputation. So yeah, Claire Fox's team, it wasn't just her. There was Milo, there was Aronovich. They were all brought in, spouting the same stuff, celebrated. As I said, Barbara Houston was extremely malicious, no longer working as a barrister, well known on TV. All of them, literally that kind of mindset. A very, very strange sort of almost... what's the word? Can't really think of the word now. Kabbalistic, because of their connection, I suppose. That's the way that they still have a remnant of their old sort of glory days of Revolutionary Communist Party origins. They have that same agenda where they're all acting as one, like a little brotherhood, but they'll all deny it. Frank has always denied it. Frank has actually apologized to me for my banning of events and things to save this person's reputation about what really happened. I've got it recorded, but nothing. Well, actually, I was allowed to resume an event a few weeks ago, but it was cut short. They just prevented me from going to 2. So yeah, the team are very much that way. That's the inclination they have. They'll shut everyone down who disagrees with them. They're hardly free speech. They have no gender. They're entryists. Well known. You look them up, ex-Revolutionary Communist Party origins, living Marxism spiked. And you wonder why they're being promoted now by Boris. And you wonder what kind of direction we're headed into and what kind of ethics and of an umbrella of ethics are they all joined under. And you might see why I'm a little bit concerned and why I followed them so rigidly, because really they are fascinating as a group. I am going to leave it there for now, because I think I must have done almost half an hour. Maybe I've got actually John Keaton. Hello. Hi John, you're my first, no, you're the only one I can see actually join me today. Any questions, ask away. Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention here about the Stanley Cohen principle, there's two things I want you to go away with. Babylon's Payback, which is all this anti-colonial stuff, Revelations 18:6, very profound. Have a go at looking at it, if nothing else. I'm not trying to Bible bash. Another thing, Stanley Cohen. Now, I was told by Barbara Houston online when she used to talk to me occasionally that it's to do with the folk hero and folk devil, and it's very prominent within media training. Now, this is no surprise why we're not allowed to see, or why they mess around with the hero and the devil so much, and the victim, because they don't want the victim to get a real strong hold of sort of momentum moving, because they fear it will lead to pitchforks. And this is what Barbara always talks about: coaching horses being run through like the justice system with accusations before and belief in them, sort of thing. It's got to be a premise of innocence. Yeah, okay. So the accusers are forever denied justice, and they're the ones who are guilty, you know, as I said, with this mark of potential fantasists for their whole lives that's used. Yeah. Well, you never hear about that in the press, because it's all about the folk hero and the folk devil. And it's very, very interesting. It's why we can never get any serious leaders, because they're all being juggled by what they can manipulate. They know how manipulatable we are by a folk hero, folk devil, and victimhood. So you'll find that exactly the victimhood, the Little Red Riding Hood, the child washed up on the beach, whoever it is played, and the hero is perhaps never going to be the real hero, and the devil will be something else, and they'll play against each other so that they can hide the real agenda, basically. So Nick is clearly in the devil camp. The hero would be the poor, accused people, and the victim. Well, where's that gone? Usually the victim just disappears, because that's a potent thing that the folk hero and folk devil management is most frightened of. So let's not let them do that. Let's use our victimhood and have it in our own hands, not monopolised by the state, using, say, Black Lives Matter, using Antifa, using anything that they can get their hands on, using the gay movement, the trans movement, anything else. Let's have our identity in our own hands, not to be used as a political tool, as we thought would happen after the Second World War, that identity would not be used as a means of governance, as something to be used in politically, to imbibe people with, this is who I really am, said the little 8-year-old trans kid. Yeah, so we're not going to be using ourselves as mascots for them to use. We're going to be watching their tactics of folk hero, folk devil, and victim, and get it real straight about who and what we should morally be supporting, despite their games. I think I'll leave it there. These are the themes that I will run through a lot of my talks, so maybe if you don't completely get it this time, I'll kind of explain, elaborate a little bit more. But this is about the time I normally stop, so enjoy your coffee, and catch you maybe tomorrow, or I'll see how regular I can make these. Bye for now.